Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Night Stranger back on the channel today, and as always, I would like to discuss a universal question that plagues all of us, and that is the question: what really is love? You know, this was a question I contemplated for years and years and years, and I'm happy to know that I still don't know the answer. I feel like if such a question could be quantifiable by a sentence, two sentences of words that give you an answer, a precise answer to the question, what is love? Then the point of love is meaningless. So I'm glad that you clicked on this video because most probably you don't know the answer either. But I remember this question was first posed to me last year. I remember I was camping with a friend and we were sitting outside and it was midnight and it was just a perfect time to have a very deep conversation. There were a few streetlights that illuminated the path, right? And we were sitting under this tree in two armchairs and it was like 30 degrees. It was very hot. But he looked at me and I could see that he was confused, right? And he said, "What do you think is true love? And do you think we can ever find true love in this world?" My response to that question was something I still contemplate till this day, and I would like to share in this video. Because I said that there is a huge distinction between true love and love at first sight. Personally, I made this distinction because love at first sight is attraction. True love is more of a sustained emotion. Because attraction is perfection, right? You look at the person and you think that every single part of them is perfect. Although you keep telling yourself in your mind, you do that, I do that. We keep telling ourselves, oh, no, they're not perfect. There are flaws to them, but subconsciously we still have this irresistible urge to be next to them because, deep in our hearts, we do think that they are perfect. We admire them for every single thing they do. Every single time they enter the room, every single time they talk, It gives us this fleeting excitement, this adrenaline, because we still are in a dream, I feel like the biggest thing that distinguishes between love at first sight, or what we think is love at first sight, which is more attraction, and true love, the sustained feeling, is that transition between imagination and reality. We transition from putting them above us. We transition from having a silver lining around their frame every single time they walked to looking at them like an actual person. And I said that love at first sight cannot be achieved. However, what I think true love really is I used a biological example, because we learn in biology, all of us, when we're very young, that substrates, which are the things that digest enzymes, can fit into enzyme perfectly, right? That is what we learned when we were younger. And we learned that was the reason why all the chemical reactions within our body are catalyzed very quickly. So that's the reason why we can digest food very quickly. That's the reason why we can actually think, because, our neurons are probably fired up by brain chemicals and all of that. So this is what we call the lock and key model, where the enzyme, which is one piece, let's just imagine like an atom, fits into a bigger atom completely and perfectly, right? Like a lock into a key. It is supposed to fit into the substrate like that. However, when I got older, I realized that biology wasn't as simple as what I was taught when I was younger. I actually got taught that the enzyme and the substrate, so these two different parts, let's say this lock and this key, were not perfect at the start. The lock and the key can sort of fit into one another, but there are little gaps between them. And slowly, the key and the lock both mold itself to fit each other. And I was like, that's what I think love is. That's what I think true love really is. I've never experienced such a thing. And I hope that one day I will experience something like that. But it's just that perfectly in my mind illustrates what it's like to achieve a compromise. You know, you not only begin as two very distinct individuals, the lock and the key, the enzyme and the substrate, but once you started dating, once you tried to fit together, you would do so many more things just to make two people one, you know? At that point, the lock and the key, when they're together, it's one person instead of two. And all of the difficulties that you had to go through, all of the compromises that you had to make, all of the things that you had to change about yourself, just like how the key changes, you know, its metallic structure, just like how the lock changes its structure as well to fit the other person. You know, that's what love is all about. And I think that just really illustrates what I think is true love. Personally, I think that it is possible. It is possible if both parties make the same compromise. And I feel like that's not always possible. There are so many things that make such a process so limited to such few people, you know, because we all have our egos. We all think that the other person needs to adapt to us. And that's very normal, you know. That is not a bad thing, but that is just part of our human nature, or at least I'm making the assumption that is part of our human nature. I do think that all of us strive at least to make ourselves the best. You know, we strive to have the most money. We strive to have the most status. These things give us what we perceive as happiness. Or maybe they don't, but these are the things that we think feeds into happiness. So therefore, our initial perception of love, or how I construe it, is that we think that we deserve the best kind of love that is on offer. And that best kind of love is the love that fits us, you know. It's the kind of thing where the other person has to fit me. The other person is perfect for me. I am the lock, and they should be the key that molds itself, you know. And that is one of the biggest misconceptions about love, because sometimes we need to hurt our egos to realize that, you know, we are not the center of the universe, but more widely speaking, love takes effort. And that's cliche, you know, that's really cliche. But the reason why something is cliche is because it needed to be repeated over and over again, because people like us, people like you and me, do not listen to the cliche. I do think that many cliches out there are very true. It's just like how stereotypes, majority of the times, hold an element of truth. Because, for example, let's say Asians do good at math. You know, these stereotypes hold true because the majority of the people in Asia started learning math when they were very young, and they have very difficult math modules when they were younger, you know. These are the things that necessitate true love. And to discuss imagination and reality, that phase between changing from this person is perfect to realizing that this person is also a living, breathing human being is also, you know, very interesting and important. If I ask you the question, what do you think is more beautiful? Something in the imagination or something in reality? What would you answer? Because I really thought about this question, I was like, surely something is more beautiful in imagination, right? If you think about it, something could be anything in imagination. You know, you could have the perfect castle in your imagination. You could have the perfect woman, the perfect man in your imagination. You could have anything. Whereas in reality, you can't have a perfect castle. You can't have a perfect man or woman because there's always flaws to every single individual. However, I thought about this and I was like, what really makes reality beautiful is not perfection. I realized that every single person out there construed the idea of perfection as beauty. Because when we were younger, we always continually got fed this idea that for a thing to be beautiful, it needed to be perfect. This is the basis of philosophy. This is the basis of Western intellectual tradition. This is what Plato said 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Plato believed that everything on earth is not perfect. He believed that reality is not perfect. But what is perfect is in the forms. What is the forms, you may ask? So the forms is basically Plato's idea that everything on earth is a copy of something that's perfect. On earth, we could try to make a circle as circular as possible, but we still understand that we cannot draw the perfect circle. There are nanometers of difference between the perfect circle and a circle that we can draw on earth. Similarly, we cannot draw the perfect square. We can say that we have AI, we can have all these technology to help us draw a circle, but we also understand that we have the perfect circle within our minds. That realization of perfection in reality is what makes us think that, we need to strive for that perfection. That is true beauty. And that's just a flawed way, in my opinion, to see the world. One of the most influential pieces of Eastern philosophy comes from this idea of wabi-sabi. So it's this Japanese idea. One of the most famous quotes that comes from wabi-sabi is that beauty cannot be described by anything. It's indescribable. However, beauty is like the falling of the autumn leaves to the floor, the golden autumn leaves, It's the appreciation that something does not last. It's the appreciation that something, goes as the time passes. But in that present moment, you have the ability to fully appreciate reality. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like at that moment, when you're walking through autumn and you're seeing the golden leaves falling to the ground next to you, that is ethereal. That gives you a transcendent experience. It feels like reality is real. Have you ever had the feeling where you're just walking into the middle of the woods and it was just silent and you could just hear like the birds, chirping, like no distraction, no voices, no technology? I feel like that's the beauty of reality. The beauty of reality is the present. The imagination is the past and the future. The beauty of reality is that it can be grasped. The beauty of reality is that you are you. They are they. The world is the world as it's supposed to be. Because at this point, you're not imagining your perfect spouse. You're not imagining at all. Because your spouse is beautiful. I don't know if that makes sense. Because personally, beauty does not derive from perfection. And perfection does not make beauty. Beauty is the present. Beauty is what you can have right now. Maybe beauty is also lowering their standards. No, that's not true. Well, that's just what I came up with in 14 minutes. I'm sure you can do better than me. But that's my take on true love. I think that the beauty of true love comes from reality. And it's that acceptance of reality that you need to face, the compromise that you need to face to achieve something ethereal. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.